welcome back to Cityline. As we saw the Lady Washington on our screens, she is so beautiful. My next guest just stepped off the Lady Washington yesterday, and that's primarily because that's his office, and I'm talking about Brent Mason. He is the Executive Director of Foss Waterway Seaport. Welcome back.
This is the first time in many attempts that we're actually in person, not doing virtual.
I know. I want to say on behalf of TV Tacoma, thank you. During the pandemic, you were so flexible and so nimble with our schedule that it was great to have you in my kitchen, but I love having you on the couch better.
And it's great to be back on the couch.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
So let's talk about, if people don't know the Foss Waterway Seaport, because maybe they've never been down to our waterfront, which is not out of the question. We're all very busy, and we're coming out of this pandemic slowly but surely. What is the Foss Waterway Seaport?
Gosh, geez, we don't have enough time to go through the deep history, but it's a 120-year-old plus grain warehouse that was part of a mile-long stretch of warehouses along the waterfront that helped shape and form Tacoma 120 years ago. That back in the right around 2000, two people thought that it was valuable enough to save, and $27 million later, it's what we are. And so we like to say that we pay homage to the wooden boat building business. We pay homage to history, Tacoma history. And as we were talking about in the green room, you kind of got to know where you're from to know where you're going.
Exactly.
And I think it's real easy nowadays, especially as we think of our young folks, to sort of discount history and not make it it's all about the now, right? Because everybody wants things right now. And with so much going on in the world, you kind of have to do that. But there is so much to Tacoma and the history of, and it's not, it's not a little bedroom community that just popped up 20 years ago. It's not a .com community down in the Bay Area in California. And so we feel like it's our responsibility to sort of keep that history alive and to be able to pass it on so that, when I'm 6 feet under or out in the with the fishes, that history continues to be told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, as I said in the opening of the show, it's officially summer. Happy summer.
So they say.
So they say, and the weather is at this moment cooperating. Many of our viewers, families and friends will be down on that waterfront. So what should their seaport list to do look like?
Well, it's a really neat time for us. I mean, we didn't sit on our thumbs during COVID. We were, as you know, we were very busy. And from an exhibit standpoint, this will probably mean very little to folks, but talking about the history of Tacoma and the history of that building, we have put about a $20,000 facelift on the exhibit that tells those stories. So it's about the rails, it's about the building, it's about how they help shape the port. So we're really excited about that. That'll be grand opening or reopening at the end of July. We've got two really cool boats. One which was donated to us. And it's called Wooden Wheels, and we've partnered with the America's Car Museum for this 1946 Buick Estate wagon that we call a Woody.
Yes.
And we have paired it with the donated boat, which is a 1936 all-wood Chris Craft runabout. And if you were to look at this, it's like, yeah, I want that boat.
Yeah.
So we've got that, and then we've got on loan until October a 1956 Aristocraft boat, which I could so see you in on a Saturday cruising out in Commencement Bay. I mean, it's all wood, but it's got some yellow in it and some red in it, and I tell you, you turn that thing on and you push go, and it's you're across the bay. So we'll have to talk to the owner and see if we can't
get me out there.
Work something out.
So as I mentioned when we started our segment here, Lady Washington, there she was floating across the screen. And you and I were having some chit chat before we went live. You had a wonderful opportunity yesterday. Tell our viewers what you did.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, such a topsy-turvy school year. We do in a normal year, we do a 7th grade program with TPS, Tacoma Public Schools, and there's the Lady Wa. And the idea behind that program is to be able to get kids on the water. And normally it's done in a more conventional boat. We'll call it a science boat, if you will. But because of COVID and because of the way that it sort of just played havoc with everybody's schedule, we didn't have a boat when it came time to putting kids on the water. And so the Grace Harbor Historical Society or Museum graciously has allowed us to use the Lady Wah for much of that program. And as you can imagine, putting 7th graders, many of whom have never been down to the waterfront, a lot of them have never even been on the water, for their first water experience to be on that, I think that's probably a memory that they'll kind of hold close for quite some time, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right about
that. And we had an opportunity to take staff and volunteers out on a pre-summer fun cruise.
Yes.
And so that was very nice.
I love that. I was thinking about when you first started down at the seaport. I think you had been on the job maybe a couple of weeks when COVID shut everything down.
Yeah.
And you, here's that word, say it with me, pivot.
Yep.
You did a drive-through chowder fundraiser.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So that leads me to ask, first off, what are the hours of the seaport, and are there any COVID restrictions still in place?
So the hours are Thursday through Sunday from 10 to 4, and we think we finally have kind of found our sweet spot for those hours. And then as far as COVID is concerned, you'll find our staff and volunteers continue to be masked. Guests, it's completely optional, and we find that it's still a mixed bag. We still do our daily cleanings and wipe downs and do all that kind of stuff. We know that COVID, I like to say COVID's not in the rearview mirror; it's sort of in the side mirror,
Yes.
and objects appear closer than they may be. And so we want to make sure that we do our part. We have a responsibility. We have a continuing responsibility to keep our visitors in the community as safe as possible.
Yeah, you're such good stewards of that area.
We like to think so, and yeah, it's hard to think back to when we first visited for the first time.
Yep.
And what's happened since that. But hey, as my folks used to say, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
It is true. So speaking of stronger, tell us about that heritage boat shop in there, because there's got to be some really cool things.
Yeah, that was a COVID baby. We birthed a renovation. We birthed a capital project in the midst of COVID, in the midst of rising costs. We were able to pull it off. It was about a 4-month construction period. And now we've got this really neat, it's like having dad or mom's garage workshop on steroids, so times 10. And those fellas down there do a variety of things for us. They do everything from, they were actually instrumental in getting the Rails to Sails Balfour Dock facelift done. But they'll build canoes, they'll build what they call prams, which is like about a 4 or 5 foot little 1 or 2 person boat. They do a little bit of everything, and we're just now starting to dip our big toe into programs. We weren't really sure how we wanted to do that, and so we've kicked it off by doing a series of once a month open house and boat shop orientations where people can come down on a Saturday morning from 11 to 12. They get a tour of the shop, they get sort of introduced to some of the tools. So we're going to start there, and then we'll start to ramp up. And eventually, my hope is that when we sit down a year from now, we'll be talking about a little bit bigger menu of programs.
Yeah. Well, we're all just kind of slowly stepping back into this and kind of just looking around going, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I think it's, we all took the deep breath, and now we're starting to exhale a little
Yeah,
bit, right?
we are.
Yeah.
The Foss Waterway Seaport is so beautiful, and I often think, wow, if somebody wanted to rent that, can they?
They absolutely can. We do a bang-up private event business. I have a great director of events and marketing who oversees that, and and I say this with a little bit of tongue in cheek because, again, COVID's not gone. But when you look at events, I think people are so thirsty and hungry to attend an event. I'm sure you've probably attended, your share, and that's no different. We've had businesses that have held tote was in here this past week doing a safety conference. We've had wedding receptions and the whole 9 yards. So events are back in a big way.
They are. So speaking of that, my last question for you is, let's talk about people who want to volunteer. Like you said, they're thirsty to get out there. They want to give back. So does the Seaport need volunteers?
Absolutely we do. In fact, the boat shop that you had asked for, the only way that we're going to be able to grow programming is to grow our volunteer team. Here's a black cloud of COVID, of which there are many, is we probably had a volunteer force of maybe 15 to 20 boat shop volunteers pre-COVID. Post-COVID, probably half a dozen.
That's a challenge if I ever heard it.
Yeah, I mean, talk about workforce reduction, huh? And and it's not like we can incentivize them with all sorts of wonderful things because they're volunteers. We're not paying them.
But you get to work in that incredible environment.
And you don't have to clean it up.
That's right.
You can just leave it all messy. There's nobody.
Just walk away.
That's it, exactly. Walk away. So yeah, we are always looking for volunteers. Boat shop is one. We're always looking for museum docents that can help tell the stories.
Okay.
So yeah, come on down.
So we've been showing the website, and folks can contact you there.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure. You know that.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
We have much more to come on Cityline. When we play some musical chairs, we'll have the Boys and Girls Club here. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.